I found this lineage of yoga when I was 28, and prior to that I'd only done a small amount of, just a few months of Iyengar yoga classes, mostly Asana. And when I was 28 I had a bad physical problem with my back, and eventually I found Anna Sandel in Wellington, New Zealand, who taught in this lineage, and I felt like I'd come home. I had found a yoga that talked to me. And then I went to Melbourne with my husband and children for my husband to do some more training, and I found, through Anna Sandel again, a yoga teacher training in this lineage in Melbourne, which I did with Barbara Bryan. And again it was like finding more intensity that was coming home. Through Barbara I met Desikachar and Kausthub. And again it was like, oh my God, there's even more. And it felt more and more like coming home. Then Kausthub invited me to India for some training. And again it was like stepping into something that felt like home, but it also felt like something much bigger than me, much bigger than Kausthub and Desikachar, much bigger than India, and it felt right. It's like a huge ocean of learnings that I feel like I've just got my feet into. So I have nothing to compare it with. All I know is that this is my home, this lineage, and the depth of it means I haven't got to the end of it, and I don't imagine that I ever will, actually. Yes, I think it's really important to have enough time. And even 3 years at the end of the course feels like a short time, because we're working with tools that change us. So we have to understand and feel that change before we can use them for other people. So 3 years was a short time. Well, groups, very interesting. When I was in my other life, I used to work for the Ministry of Agriculture in New Zealand. Hi, Sita. And I did quite a bit of training in group dynamics in the Western psychodynamic psychodrama model. So I know that groups have their own energy and their own power. And my experience of this tradition of yoga is there's much learning that goes on in a group. Like my teacher training that I undertook was done in a group. I came and was in a sangha in India in a group. This yoga therapy is done in a group. And the benefit of that, I think, is that you get triggered by other people in the group, and they give you an opportunity to find out things about yourself that you might have wanted to keep in the cupboard, nice and safely locked away. But working intensely in the way that we do in a group, that stuff comes out, and you've given an opportunity to work with it, to own your stuff, to own your triggers, and to find ways out. So it's not always pleasant, but I've always found it really valuable. My favourite experience of this program was the pilgrimage that we went on. So just last weekend we went on a pilgrimage the Navagraha pilgrimage of the 9 temples. And for me it anchors this lineage in a place, that place where Namova, Nakamuni, the teachings, Krishnamacharya, in a place, in a sacred space. And because I come from New Zealand, we honour that at home. It's what I've been brought up with, that to know where things come from, where their place is. So going to that place has a profound effect on me. So in the therapy program, there's many different subjects that we cover, and many different tools are introduced. So we experience those tools through practices. We experience teaching the group ourselves and getting feedback. We experience presenting cases that we're working with and getting feedback. And what I really value about these teachings is the relationship aspect, that it's not just about a tool, it's about your relationship to it and how you wield that tool and your skills in observing the effect it has on the student. So it's a big curriculum. It's much to process. You get given so much information that you have to take away and process yourself. Sometimes when I read my notes, it's in my handwriting, but it's like I've never read it before. So the teachings are profound, the subjects nestle into each other, they're supported by the practices, so it's a really integrated presentation. Well, I'm probably a bit biased because he's my teacher, but how is he as a teacher? For me, he's a very human person, and for me that's really important. I didn't want an idol. I didn't want someone who was on some pedestal. I wanted someone who was dealing with the world in the way that I am, that my students are. So what I find most profound is his link to the depth of these teachings and his ability to make it real in today, and also his ability to express his own difficulties and where he's up to with these teachings. So for me, not wanting someone up there as a teacher, it's really worked for me. I don't think this training is for everybody. I don't come from a belief or I don't think that yoga is for everybody. So that's a subset of humans. We all have our own paths, and yoga is definitely mine. But even within the yoga path, this training asks you to look at your stuff, and you need to be ready for that. To get the most out of the training, you need to be able to work with your stuff and work with the training. If you're not prepared to work with your stuff, what I've seen happen to some people is their stuff overwhelms them and then they can't receive any of the training. So I think it's not for everyone. I think you must want it. You must be ready for it. You must have support from your family, from friends when things come up, so you've got someone to process it with. You really need a teacher. You need an intense relationship with someone who's prepared to be there, and with someone that you're prepared to listen to. So I think there's many things you need: the teachings, the teacher, but also your family and your friends. And for me, because I'm an outdoors girl, I need my beach, I need my dogs, I need that time and space to process, to bring into here, not just in my head, but into the whole of me, the meaning of this stuff. Because this lineage is intense, so it's not for everybody, but because I'm quite an intense person, it really suits me. So this training, one of the biggest things that I seem to have got out of it is an ability to really be in myself and present with, if I'm seeing a student for yoga therapy. And it's a huge benefit to me. I think what I've noticed over the last 3 years is my ability to not just be in my head, but to actually come down and be in my whole body. And that allows me, or helps me, be completely present to the student. I'm not sure if that makes sense, but there's something about really being in the whole of me that helps me listen to them in a more whole way, like I can see. And I think one of the things that helps me to do that is knowing my triggers, knowing what my stuff is, not being perfect or completely cleansed or processed or anything, but that I know what my shit is, and I can put that to one side and be completely, as much as I can, present to that student. And what it seems to do is allow me to really see where they're at, hear where they're at, feel where they're at, and what tools might help them to go in the direction that they want to go in, that's best for them.